So it's that time once again where we have a look at the cabinet league tables from Conservative Home. Let me just get my teeth back in. There we go. So we've got the cabinet league tables here from Conservative Home. Now, people always ask me why do you look at Conservative Home, and I always respond this way. So if you've heard this before, don't worry. But Conservative Home is written especially for conservative audiences. And as a result, you get things said on this blog that aren't said anywhere else. It's kind of interesting, some of the stuff that they've come out with over the many years. We've covered a couple of think tanks that have gone straight to Conservative Home and published their wacky ideas that they've said that will somehow save the Conservative Party or write the correct course in the UK. We've covered, honestly, some of their reactions when they go to we went to this Conservative conference. What was our reaction? And to be honest, most of their reactions to a couple of these crazy conferences that we have seen have been kind of hilarious. From Will Atkinson, kind of shocked almost for being his first sort of almost contact with an actual Conservative Party voter, and then wishing he was watching Eurovision instead, to the more recently guy who found himself on a table with a couple of people from Australia discussing the economic policies of Locke and the immigration of policies of Enoch Powell. Needless to say, we have had some absolute gems from Conservative Home. But one of the things that they always do, which, to be honest, I will say this, has predicted the future of who would be the next Conservative Prime Minister, and had a lot of, I would say, other interesting implications to see, should we say, who's popular and who's not in the Conservative Party, because this poll is specifically done for Conservative Party members. You have to prove that you have got a Conservative Party membership. I know I've tried to get on this poll before, but one of the things that it did predict very, very strongly before even anyone said that this was going to be a thing was the Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak leadership election race. And I ended up really agreeing with them and saying, yeah, actually, this honestly looks the way that it was going to be. And although a lot of people saying, no, that's not going to happen. Liz Truss, not in a million years. Well, of course, we know what happened then. So, needless to say, these league tables, especially when you've got a King's speech that's just happened today, and Rishi Sunak hoping that this isn't going to be his last one. There's still questions. Will Rishi Sunak, make it to Christmas? Will he survive until Christmas? We don't know. We've got a couple of big things obviously coming up. You've got obviously the King's speech. There's still the autumn budget. There's still the net zero announcements. Will they continue on this when you've had the UN saying, hey, guys, we just want to make sure, you're continuing with those net zero commitments, Interesting to say the least. But we're going to have a look at these cabinet league tables. And honestly, it should surprise you because obviously he's in the picture. James Cleverly, believe it or not, taking the top spot. But before we go, of course, looking at the rest, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Of course, there are links down below. There's my Patreon page. There's one off-station link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. And, of course, there is the Pony Club as well. So, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And, as always, thank you very much to everyone who does help support the channel. Even if you do just click the like and share button, it helps out. So, as we said, let's start at the top. James Cleverly, why is he there? Honestly, I think it's because of more to do with the fact he has been in the news more than anything else. That's why I really do believe he is there at the top, taking that top spot. I mean, he's 71.8, I think it is. Hang on, let me just check. Yep, 71.8. So he is a very, very commanding lead. But the only reason I still think he is there is because everything that's been going on in the Middle East. He's had a lot of television time. He's come across kind of, I think, positively in a way, because of sort of his TV appearances. Hasn't really upset the conservative audience, which again is why he's at the top spot here. Um, we'll we'll look later to see where Rishi Sunak is, of course, on this list. And then the next one, obviously, to be honest, a bit of a surprise. You've got Kimi Badnock at 63.0. To be honest, kind of shocking. Kimi Badnock has really pinballed up and down this list constantly to where she sits. And I will say this now: there's a lot of people who would quite calmly say that if you were to go and put a bet on who was going to be the next conservative leader, Kimi Badnock would probably not be a bad choice to put a fiver on. But I've said this before. I think even conservative sources on this website has said it before. Can she actually perform under pressure? If she was the prime minister, we've seen her not perform very well under pressure, even basic scrutiny. Remember, the speaker had to reprimand her because she decided to speak back to him. That is not a done thing. There's still a lot of people in the right wing of the party who openly said she'll never be prime minister because of her refusal to have, of course, the I am not going to be an arsonist for the bonfire of regulations that they wanted her to do. Clearly, I think now this sets out, I think, James Cleverly, if he again survives somehow, because honestly, as we said, if there is going to be such a tidal wave of losses and they are going to be hit really badly, will these people survive? It's a genuine question. And if James Cleverly survives, you get a situation where Cleverly becomes the stopper. And he becomes the stopper for someone like Kimi Badnock or Suella Braverman, who might put their hat in the ring because they are sort of from the same side-ish of the party. There's some sort of slight differences, but a lot of overcrosses. And if they're running together, then they need, of course, the rest of the party to back them if they are to win. And James Cleverly will be that stopper, which would stop someone like Kimi Badnock or Suella Braverman from taking that position. And then, of course, you've got third place, Penny Mordaunt, with 45%. Kind of respectable. Still not anywhere near, of course, Kimi Badnock, but we've said before, Penny Mordaunt, probably someone who will put their hat in the ring at the next potential leadership election. That's, of course, if she can hold on to her seat. There's still a lot of indicators that she might not hold on to a seat, given that down in Portsmouth. But again, of course, we've got to wait for a general election to see if that is the case. So in fourth place, you've then got Johnny Mercer, and then of course fifth place, you've got Suella Braverman. And that's your top five. And once again, none of these people, I would say, really sort of stand out. But if it was a clear election, bear in mind this was the type of stuff that Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak were getting when people were thinking, well, is Boris really the guy we want to continue with? James Cleverly and where Kimi Badnock were, that's roughly where Liz and Rishi Sunak were. You had Liz Truss at the top, and then Rishi Sunak very, very close behind her. That's what ended up predicting who would be the next leadership contestant. So could that be the case? We don't know. Obviously, what would happen, like I say, it would be after a general election. If this happens before a general election and Rishi Sunak gets absolutely, they decide, well, no, we're going to change again. I doubt the British public would again favour the Conservative Party for doing that again and not going to a general election. I think that Cleverly would be there as a stopper, as I said. And I think you would get Badenoch. I think you would get Braverman and definitely Penny Mordaunt. Michael Gove would not run because Michael Gove is sort of Kimmy Badenoch's key patron. Without Gove, Badenoch is not where she is at all. And there's a lot of people saying that he is the puppet master for Kimmy Badenoch because he knows, of course, of his, well, lack of popularity. Like I say, there's Michael Gove down here on 1.1% of that. Literally just above Rishi Sunak, who is at 7.1. Bear in mind, if you are the Prime Minister, you probably want to make sure that you are at least polling somewhat well amongst your party. And remember, this is a regular outreach that they do to the people in the Conservative Party, saying, "What do you think of these people in cabinet?" This is why the league tables get made up. If Rishi Sunak is at 7.1, doesn't really send a good sign. Although, to be honest, in the bit down below, it does say that Rishi Sunak's managed somewhat of a rise. The fact that he's still so down low in that cabinet league table does send a lot of questions of will he actually survive until Christmas. But the big, of course, question is, and I will repeat this now, Thérèse Coffey has been at the bottom of this table for as long as we've been covering these league tables. I know, and a lot of people say, how is Suella Braverman managing to keep her position when she said all this stuff, which has clearly done damage to the Conservative brand? Rishi consistently has to cover for her because, well, he owes her a favor. Like I say, because without her, he would have had to have gone into a leadership election against Boris Johnson. There was big questions of whether he could have pulled that off or not. But her being able to rally to the right wing of the party to his side is why she's there. It's why she's continuing in her position, because if she goes or she gets removed, then he loses that support of the party. Now, everyone says that that's what, Suella has on Rishi. That's why she gets kept there. But the big question I think should be often asked, why on earth is Thérèse Coffey still there? Bear in mind, she has survived at least 2 reshuffles, and yet she's still in the cabinet. How? She's seen to constantly do an awful job. You had the recent Storm Clarion video stuff where, she went out to see victims and didn't even look them in the face, and then blamed it on, this unexpected rain from the east. Honestly, what's Thérèse Coffey got on Rishi Sunak that she's allowed to continue in this position? Because honestly, if you're Rishi Sunak, if you replace Thérèse Coffey with someone else as the environmental minister, it's not going to be a big loss. It really is not going to be a big loss. But hey, there you go. So that's the current sort of Conservative cabinet league tables as where they stand. Kind of interesting as always. But Rishi Sunak being as low as he is does not really, shall we say, as always, he's in a bit of a trouble spot. And once again proves just how weak of a leader he is. We'll see what happens with the King's speech, but I doubt the King's speech is going to, shall we say, change the dial on, or at least flip the tables for the Conservatives. It certainly doesn't look like it so far, given some of the reporting that we've seen so far. But we'll see. But of course, that will come next month. So, as always, until then, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, I'll see you all next time.